So, Heather, what's your best advice for a first-time small group leader?
First-time small group leader. The first thing I would encourage you to do is it's highly likely that your church provides some sort of training, some sort of support for you as a leader. So whatever that is, make sure you're taking full advantage of it. If there are training classes, there's relationships, there's coaches, there are events where you can get trained. Pay close attention to it. Take full advantage of it. But just in general, you're a first-time small group leader. The first thing I would tell you is that the first few nights of your group are probably going to be extremely awkward. I've been leading groups for about 20 years, and every time I start a brand new group, those first few nights just kind of feel awkward. So embrace the awkward. Another thing I would encourage you in is if nobody shows up the first night, or only a couple of people show up, or the weird people show up, don't get discouraged. The first group I ever led, nobody came for the first 2 months. And then when people did come, they weren't necessarily the people that I personally would have chosen to be my best friends. But fast forward 2 years, and even more importantly now, 15 years later, and to see the way that God has worked friendship and brought those people to tremendous spiritual growth, and now they're leaders all over the world. That's just really encouraging to me, and also a reminder of don't judge things too quickly by the first night. Another thing I'd really encourage you to do, first night of your group, make sure you share names. I made a mistake. Again, I've been doing this for a long time, and the last group I led, I forgot to just go around and make sure everybody knew each other's name. And so it was at the end of the night that everybody was kind of like, hey, Heather, could we take a moment and just share names with each other so we know each other? Someday I'll become a good small group leader. But I would also say make sure to have a time where you can share stories with one another. Give people an opportunity to open up, share a little bit of their story. You can do this through some creative and fun icebreakers, or you could just do it by every night having a different member of your group kind of just share a little bit of their story, because that opens up to a place of authenticity and transparency for the rest of the time that you meet together. I think that food really is the best icebreaker, and you don't have to take on that burden all yourself. Find other people in the group that will share the load, and be creative and fun with food, because that's just a natural way to get people talking and get people interacting before you start your group meeting. I would say make sure that you make prayer a priority in your group and not just an afterthought. And make sure to make prayer meaningful and not just wasteful. And what I mean by that is sometimes we tend to tag on prayer is the very last thing. Like that's the cap of the group. That's kind of the end of the group. That's what we do to close things out. And then sometimes we spend a lot of time sharing a lot of requests that aren't really that deep and aren't really that personal. So finding ways to make prayer a priority and something that carries the group from week to week, because that's a great way to serve one another and a great way to build community even outside of that group meeting time. I think ultimately it's about, on that first night, being very intentional about what you're measuring, what you're counting, and why you're counting it. Because I honestly don't believe that the first night of your group meeting is, I don't think the most important thing is how many people show up or how good the snacks were or how good the discussion was. I think what really matters on that first night is how welcome do people feel, and are they on a path of change that's going to take them to a new place in their life in the present, but more importantly, is it going to set them on a new trajectory for their life moving forward in Christ? And so the first few nights might be extremely awkward. Stick with it. Community is messy, but it's the way that God works in us and through us.